This video was sponsored by the National Pork Board. Welcome back to the sandwich series where I find the best sandwiches from around the world and make every single element from scratch. And for today's video, it's gonna be a bit of a challenge. I'm doing the pulled pork sandwich, which is just the definition of American style barbecue, but can I make an incredible pulled pork sandwich from scratch completely at home without a smoker? And today's gonna be a little different than other sandwich series videos in the past because one, I can't go out and actually get a taste of this sandwich, but luckily I've had many pulled pork sandwiches in my day. And two, I've really been putting in some time for recipe testing and really come up with incredible recipes compared to other episodes where it might just be a little more improv, a little more in the moment. So let's get after this pulled pork sandwich. So it's just about summer and I'm ready to get out of the kitchen and take it to the grill. And you know I'm pro home cooks, we like to take it to the next level. And I feel like pulled pork is the perfect representation of barbecue because you're taking a cut like pork shoulder, which is a super budget friendly protein, and you're turning this into an incredible meal that could feed your whole family, could feed your friends, or you can use it to meal prep for the entire week. So I'm gonna be showing you a really cool technique to smoke a pork shoulder without actually having a smoker by just using your grill. But first we got to make a spice rub because this is an open canvas of flavor potential and you get to choose what type of flavors you want in your barbecue. So I'm going to be making a quick barbecue rub with the spices I have in my house. All right, before we pick our spices, I'm just going to turn my oven to 275 and get that preheating for our pork. And this is my spice pantry over here and I've got most of the basics on hand. So I'm just going to pick some whole spices and some ground spices and we'll make a mix. Coriander, cumin, chili flakes, mustard seeds, a little dried herb mixture, allspice, and cardamom. Just a few more things, a little bit of smoked paprika powder, well, a lot of bit of that. A little bit of cinnamon, can be used for savory, no problem. And then we need our salt, of course. And I forgot a few peppercorns. I'll throw in those too. The reason I wrap this up in tin foil is because I'm going to throw it in the oven low and slow for a few hours just to give it a head start on that cooking process. Since I just have a regular grill and not a smoker, it's going to be much harder to regulate the smoking and I don't want to be doing that for like 12 hours at a time, but I can do it for a few hours. So we're going to split the difference and throw this in the oven at 275. I would say 3 to 4 hours so that connective tissue starts to break down. Then we'll finish that baby off on the grill for maximum flavor. And since we've got some time right now, let's make some buns. So for the buns, I've got 4 medium potatoes that I poked holes in and I just microwaved those for about 10 minutes until they were nice and tender. Then I cut those in half to release some of that steam, and once they were cool, I peeled off all of the skins and tossed the potatoes into a big bowl and just gave those a quick mash. Now to your mashed potatoes, you can add 5 cups of flour. I'm using 2 cups of all-purpose flour and 3 cups of bread flour, but use whatever you have on hand in the pantry. Then I added a full stick of butter that was at room temperature, and I incorporated the butter and the mashed potato into the flour. So I don't think you ever see this technique with bread. This is normally how you start a pie crust, by working the butter into the flour, but it just felt right and it came out really great. So you're looking for something like this. We've got potato, butter, and flour, and it smells amazing. Now to your flour mixture, add 1 cup of warm milk, half a cup of water, 2 eggs, 2 teaspoons of yeast, and this is instant yeast, so I can just add it right to the mixture. But if you need to bloom your yeast, just follow your instructions on your yeast packet. 2 tablespoons of honey for a little bit of sweetness. Finally, 2 tablespoons of salt. My dough is pretty wet, so I added another cup of flour, and I just let that rest for about 15 minutes. And then once it's rested, you can start the kneading process. So So this dough is gonna be pretty sticky. It's a higher hydration dough. It's pretty wet, but it's the only way you're gonna get really fluffy buns. Plus you've got the potato in there and the butter that's adding to the stickiness. So another pro tip is just to let this rest. Whenever it gets too sticky and you're kneading it out, just pop the towel over for like 15 minutes. You're gonna give the gluten a chance to relax, but also form more of that gluten structure, which will make this much smoother and much easier to roll. So I might let this relax maybe 1, 2, 3 more times during this kneading process, depending on how sticky this dough is.
All right, we're gonna let this dough proof for about an hour or two until it's doubled in size. So now I'm gonna take these and I'm gonna pop them right into these ring molds with a little bit of oil, just to help with the proofing shape for perfect rolls. We've got 6 buns with the ring molds, and then 5 more over here just in a cast iron. I'm just gonna give them a little egg and milk wash, and we'll let them proof for, I don't know, about an hour until they've really filled this thing out.
All right, so you can see these are just about ready. And these ring molds accomplish 2 things. They're gonna give you the perfect circular shape compared to just letting them rise on their own. And they're also gonna force them to rise up, giving you a higher bun rather than rising out for a wider bun, which I prefer. So the last thing I'm gonna do is just hit this with 1 more coating of egg wash to really give them that deep color. And there's no way these would be the perfect buns without a little dash of sesame. It just brings them to the next level.
So for the buns that are really expanded a lot, I am gonna cut this thing right off because they will bust out and they won't look good.
And then for the other ones that have a little bit of room left, I'm just gonna let those rise right in the ring mold in the oven. All right, 375, maybe 20 minutes. We'll see. These came out amazing. Everything you could want in a bun right there. We've got eggs, we've got butter, we've got potato, perfect for a pulled pork sandwich. And the fact that I can make these buns while taking care of this little bun right here means you should be able to make some bread as well. All right, 3 hours later, nowhere near pulled pork, still very firm, but this is as far as I want to go with it, but it's a nice head start. So we're gonna take this out to the grill, but make sure, let me show you something.
Make sure you save all of this juice. A lot of pork juice is gonna come off this thing, and we can use this in our barbecue sauce. So here's how we're gonna do this thing. We've got our charcoal on one side, indirect heat over here with our soaked wood chips. So I'm just gonna start adding those to the bunch. And I'll be replenishing the charcoal and the wood chips as they burn out. Now it's time to get our pork on this side. All right, we're smoking over here. We've got our pork over here. I've got some water over here to create some extra moisture because we don't want this drying out. We'll close it and try to regulate it at around 275 for another few hours. All right, going to check on this thing. Nice. See, we're at a low smoke now, which is much better. It was a little hot at first, but once things started burning down, just been slowly feeding. We've got a beautiful, you can see I picked that at there. So what I want to do now is just wrap it up in some tin foil, just so it doesn't dry out, and I'll let it smoke for probably another hour in here.
All right, while the pork is smoking, there are just two more elements that I need to make. We've got the barbecue sauce and the coleslaw, and I'm gonna start with the coleslaw, which couldn't be simpler, but couldn't be more delicious. I'm telling you, this is the only coleslaw recipe you will ever need in your life. And it's just a few ingredients, and you can make it in probably 3 minutes. I feel like most people think a pulled pork sandwich is something that's very heavy, but when you're cooking fresh pork, it's actually a great source of key nutrients that are important to your health, and also it pairs really great with fresh veggies. And that is the point of this slaw, to really balance out this sandwich. So I'm throwing in a nice balance of flavor and color with these veggies and just things I have on hand in the fridge, but you can customize your veggie mix for this slaw in whatever way that you want. It's really just about incorporating that freshness into your sandwich and then properly seasoning your slaw. I get it if you don't want to make the buns, if you don't want to smoke the pork, but please just try this recipe. See how simple it is? It is just so tasty.
That's a pretty nice bark for not having a smoker. Looks, wow, very even too. Juicy. All right, let's rip into this thing.
Here's a very good tip when you're cooking things low and slow. Check this out. See, it's pulling apart, not bad, but if you look very closely, you can actually see the tissue in between the pulled layers. That's a good way of knowing that it might be just slightly undercooked, like it's not completely falling apart, but it's pretty damn good. Maybe could have used another hour or so for perfection, but you live and you learn.
That is a beautiful pile of smoked pork, but we definitely need some barbecue sauce to accompany it.
All right, so you remember the pork juice that came off that pork shoulder? Right here, I put it in the fridge specifically so I could get this separation right here. This is very important. So what I'm gonna do is take the fat off this, put it in there to start my barbecue sauce, and then I'll use the actual liquid to rehydrate this pork and really give that the juice that it needs and that it lost from that cooking process. There you go, 4 elements coming together for the perfect pulled pork sandwich at home. At least, you know, close to perfect. I'm striving for perfection or deliciousness at least, but there's still things I want to change. There's still things I want to improve, and that's the point of cooking. So make sure you follow me at Life by Mike G to learn how you can feed yourself a little more, because I'm filming all the behind the scenes action of the sandwich series. And just get in the kitchen, stay cooking, you'll feel better. You'll be able to feed your friends and your family and yourself, and just cooking is awesome, and just keep doing it. This video was sponsored by the National Pork Board.